Joining me today in our beautiful First Star Logistics studios, Jim Maloney, Reds pitcher extraordinaire, could bring the heat. Guarantee you, no jugs guns back then, but he was bringing it 100 miles an hour. Ask Major League hitters back then about Jim Maloney. They will confirm. He had multiple 20-win, 200-plus strikeout seasons. He was outstanding. All-star. Just brought it every single day. And you'll hear great stories about some of his teammates, Pete Rose, Johnny Bench. Jim Maloney had his ups and downs in his life. You'll hear about that as well. Great guest, has a beautiful story. You're going to like it. Welcome once again to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, sponsored by First Star Logistics. We're in the beautiful First Star Logistics studios, and very special guest today, just a living legend of the Cincinnati Reds, Jim Maloney. Jim Maloney threw 2 no-hitters. In my book, he threw 3 no-hitters. There's only been 36 pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball that have thrown 2 or more no-hitters, and our special guest today is one of those gentlemen. Mr. Maloney, sir, I mean, how about those 2 no-hitters? And again, in my mind, you had 3 no-hitters, but the modern rules changed that. But
right,
those have to be unbelievable memories.
Right. Well, when I first signed, I was signed as a pitcher with the Reds, and I've set some goals for myself, and one of them was, to have a 20-game season, play in the World Series, and pitch in an All-Star game, and also pitch a no-hitter, so the first no-hitter I got into was that I had credit for a while until, like you said, Dave, the writers in New York, I forget what year that was, 1990 somewhere, they took a bunch of no-hitters off that guys had pitched 5 innings, and the rains came, and they gave credit for a 5-inning no-hitter. Well, my game against the Mets in 1965 in June, I think, at Crosley Field there.
Yeah.
I had pitched 10 innings, and the score was 0-0, and I had a no-hitter.
Yep.
And then I went out in the top of the 11th. The Mets, Johnny Lewis, hit a home run off me there, and so I ended up losing that game 1-0. But for a long time, they counted that as a 10-inning no-hitter. And then 2 months later, I found myself exactly in the same position. I was in Crosley Field in Chicago, and I was sitting on the bench. I looked at the big scoreboard out in the outfield there, and it was 0-0, and I was sitting on the bench in 9 innings, and I had a no-hitter, and I still had to pitch. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is a tough league, So anyway, I went out, and I was on the on-deck circle on the top of the 10th, and Leo Cardenas, our shortstop, was hitting, and he hit the ball good, and I could see the ball was curving, and it hit the foul pole down the left field line for a home run. Wow. So luckily that held up. So within 2 months there, I pitched 2 10-inning no-hitters, and I had won 1 and I lost 1. So anyway, that's then in 1969 I pitched another no-hitter against the Astros, and won that one 10-0, but that was sort of a breeze. But the next night, I don't know if you knew, Don Wilson,
right,
for the Houston Astros, he pitched a no-hitter against us.
Yeah.
So there's only been I think 1 or 2 other pitched games in the major leagues where there were back-to-back no-hitters. Yeah,
and that was his second no-hitter, I think, too, when he pitched the no-hitter against the Reds. I think that was his second one of his career. Man, you guys, that was amazing, back-to-back. Yeah. What's your take? I think 7 no-hitters in a single season, maybe it's 8, is the major league record right now. But this season, there's already been 6 no-hitters. There have been 4 no-hitters in the month of May. Is that basically the home run or strikeout mentality of the hitters, or is it better pitching? What do you think it is, Jim?
I don't know. I mean, I was thinking about that the other night. I said, boy, there's a lot of no-hitters showing up, but you got some guys that can, pitch, and there's a lot more teams than when I played. So you have more guys that can have filled positions, everyday players. And, I don't know if the quality is there for that many players. There's more jobs available, but I couldn't answer that, to be honest with you. I think that, a guy pitches no hitter. He's got, I watched what Miley did the other night, and boy, he just did a surgical job for a guy that just, he throws around 90 miles an hour. He mixes his pitches up, and those hitters, they had no clue. That night, that was really a job. I enjoyed watching that game.
Yeah, he was definitely masterful. You mentioned a 20-win season. You had multiple 20-win seasons with 200 or more strikeouts. I think one year it was over 20 wins, like 248 strikeouts. I mean, that's dominance.
Well, I think that was 1965, and I had 265 strikeouts, and I had pitched 250 innings, I think, in that year.
Yeah. And
I ended up 23-7, but I couldn't get out in front of Sandy Koufax over there. He was like 25-7 or 25-9, and he was the Cy Young guy. And there was a lot of guys in the league that pitched that, had Gibson and Marichal and Don Drysdale, and some guys could get it up there pretty good in those days. They didn't have the radar gun. Nobody knew how hard they threw. I could tell pretty much if, how hard I was throwing by the way, if I was like 2 balls and no strikes on Willie Mays or somebody like that. And I'm saying to myself, here's my fastball, my best fastball, see if you can hit it. Yeah. And I'd get it by him, So
do you think you threw 100 miles an hour, Jim? I mean, it's documented in. Yeah. You look up Jim Maloney, it says 99-mile-an-hour fastball. I mean,
I don't know who. Yeah. I think that's fake news. I don't know who come up with that deal. There was no way of knowing anything like that. But I'd say, I was right, pretty much right around that number. I mean, maybe some days a little bit more. That's why I felt. There were some days I went out there, and my own personal thing, when I warmed up and started getting guys out, I knew that I was on the top edge of those hitters on that particular day.
Who was your toughest out? I mean, who was the guy that's like, boy, I just can't, I can't fool this guy? Is there anybody that comes to mind?
Sure. You always have those guys, you throw their glove, you throw your glove out there and they'll still get a hit on it, Comes to mind was Rusty Staub.
Really?
Was a line drive hitter in Houston, and he was a good hitter, and I couldn't get him out. And I'll tell you what happened. And Willie McCovey was a guy that when he learned the strike zone, these guys today, when they throw that ball up high, and it's not a ball, I mean, it's a ball, and they go ahead and swing at it, they're not going to do good for the entire year on the average. I'll guarantee you. They may hit a few home runs, but you keep chasing that ball from your shoulders to your eyes, and you can't catch up. Anybody who throws over 95 miles an hour, you can't catch up to it. And you see that that's what happens today. Well, McCovey was that way when he came up. We call it going, pitch up the ladder.
Yeah.
You start and you get ahead of him one strike, and then you go up a little bit and he swings and misses, and then you go up to his eyes and he'd chase it. Well, when he learned the strike zone and quit chasing that one up high, that guy was a tough out with power. Willie Stargell was also a tough out for me. Both those guys were left-handed hitters. All three of them, actually. Staub was too. But I'll tell you a deal on Staub, sort of a funny story. A true story was we were in the Astrodome, and I was pitching, and I told John Edwards, my catcher, a guy I roomed with for about 6-7 years. He was my big brother from Ohio State. And I says, how are we going to get Staub out? Because one of those guys, I just throw the ball up there and he'd get a hit. And so I said, I got an idea. We'll just try it. So we started the game, and Staub came up to hit. And I'd walk off the mound, and I get down just below the dirt on the AstroTurf toward home plate, and I'd yell at him, "Hey, fastball this time, right in there. See what you can do." I go back to the mound. Yeah, I couldn't do any worse, So I threw a fastball and he took it for a strike, And then I went down same way the next pitch. I said, I'm going to try a curve now. You ready? So I threw another curve and I got it over to strike 2. And ended up getting him out. And after that, believe it or not, I never said anything more to him, but I started getting him out pretty much on a regular basis. So maybe I put something in his head. I don't know.
Yeah, that's great. That's interesting. Going back to your high school days at Fresno, you played on a baseball team that did not lose a game in 3 years. Is that true?
No, that's not true. We lost one game. We lost one game in 3 years. Yeah.
One game.
We really had a Fresno High. And also Tom Seaver, he came 5 years after I did, Fresno High.
Right.
And Dick Selma, he came through there 2 years after. And we had a lot of players that came through Fresno High during those years that went up to the major leagues. And on my team, I graduated in 1958. Pat Corrales was our catcher.
Wow.
And he's still in baseball today with the Dodgers, an executive in the front office. There's a guy that came up, his parents didn't have much money, and our coach gave him a pair of spikes and taught him how to catch. Our coach was a former catcher, and he took off, and he ended up, playing in the big leagues, managing in the big leagues, coaching in the big leagues, and now he's been in baseball for over 50 years. And Dick Ellsworth, who was a 20-game winner with the Cubs and pitched 10 or 11 years, he was our pitcher. I played shortstop.
Yeah, you were shortstop.
Yeah,
and you hit like 500 your senior year, didn't you?
Yeah, I could have signed. Half the teams wanted me to start out as an infielder, and then if I couldn't cut it with a bat, go to pitching. And then the others the Reds wanted me to concentrate on pitching right away.
But that helped you. I mean, you had over 200 career batting average as a pitcher, 7 home runs, bunch of RBI. I mean, you weren't that easy out in that 9-hole, were you?
No, I took excuse me. I took a pride in my hitting, and when I first came up, Hutch used me as a pinch hitter a couple of times. I pinch hit in a couple of ball games, and 1961. There's a little memorabilia deal there. Who was had the highest batting average on the 61 championship team of the Reds? And of course, I only had like 50 or 60 at bats, but I think I hit 361. So that was it's sort of a deal,
That's a great trivia question.
But as time went on, you lose your stroke, because But I took pride in my bunting. I helped win some games with bunting guys over, which they don't do today. It's a wholly different deal today.
It is. It's such a different game. There's no question about it. But also, you were a 3-sport star in high school at Fresno. You were a quarterback on the football team and a heck of a basketball player too, weren't you?
Yeah, I did. I was, I like to play. I like to play all the sports, but I knew in my junior year that there were scouts coming around and telling me stuff that, I had to sign and I was going to get some money. And, they didn't have the money that they had today, but, I was going to get some decent money. And my senior year, I stayed out of football. I didn't play. I just played basketball and baseball. And so as that, my dad was sort of my agent in those days. He was a pretty successful used car man. He owned his own business and for many, many years. And he helped me. I would have signed for a Hershey bar or something and a Coke, but he turned guys down when I graduated from high school and said that there wasn't enough money involved and I was going to college. And I had a scholarship up at Cal, baseball scholarship. He liked to coach up there.
Yeah.
And so I went up there for one semester and then came back to Fresno. And Bobby Maddox, who was the West Coast scout at that time, he had signed Frank Robinson and Veda Pinson, and there was a few guys out of Oakland that he signed. He was a Mel Queen. There was a lot of guys that Bobby signed. And so anyway, they came around and they gave me some money, offered me some money, and off I went. I signed April Fool's Day, 1959.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So in basketball, could you fill it up? Were you a great shooter?
Well, I went up to Cal and I went out for the Frosh basketball team, and I made it, and they had
Really?
guys on scholarship, and I made the Frosh basketball team. So I had a lot of fun there. And then at semester time, I was having a rough time with grades and stuff, being away from home, and that Cal's a different deal up there. Still
Right.
is.
Right.
So
Right.
anyway.
Gotcha. Gotcha. But, well, you talk about an all-around athlete, man. Jim Maloney, athlete. You could probably been an Olympic decathlete or something with your athlete.
No, heck no.
So, with respect to baseball today, the difference in the way the game's played now is as opposed to when you played the game. And they're talking about moving the mound back a foot, and all the. What do you think? Your opinion? Should they make changes? What do you think is the biggest change that needs to be made in the game of baseball, if any?
I'd say the biggest change is to get those games over quicker. You got those batters adjusting their gloves and all that stuff, stepping out after every pitch. Some pitchers take all day to throw and this and that. And then there's so many pitching changes that all takes time. And they got to figure out a way to get stuff done a lot quicker. Those games go on. We had games that so you had certain pitchers, Perky against Bob Gibson, you're looking at under a 2-hour ball game in those days, Then I don't know really what they do in between innings, if there's commercials and stuff where the players have to sit, I don't know what that stuff, but those games are too long in my opinion. I mean, you're looking 3.5 hours, pretty, and that's too long. They shouldn't take that long.
You think that like 6 no-hitters already, 4 in the month of May, you think that is I'm not saying diminishes, but does it alter the no-hitter feat, the way guys and got like Jim Maloney, all-star pitcher, I mean 23 wins, 250 60 strikeouts, that guy no-hitter. But some of these guys that are throwing no-hitters, you scratch your head and you say, wow. But like you said, the talent is there. I mean, it's still a feat to go up and down the order 3 times and retire that thing for 27 outs. That's not easy to do, and an element of luck involved. And somebody can hit a bleeder somewhere, but that's still a hell of an accomplishment, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's you got to have some luck. You're right, Dave. I mean, there's got to be luck involved. We get a lot of the Giant games here in Fresno, and I remember watching Matt Cain pitch his perfect game up there in Pac Bell, I think it was in those days, Oracle Park now. But the outfielders made 2 or 3 diving catches that really, I forget who, Pagan, who made catches that normal center field wouldn't probably even get close to.
Right.
And so that's some luck involved. And he made good pitches, and it's quite an accomplishment. But today, it's hard to get anybody to go 9 innings to get a complete game. I mean, I don't understand that. I don't understand, in my opinion, that 100 pitch count. Of course, I don't have anything to do with it. They've been running. All those managers basically manage the same way. They double switch. They do all the same. Very little hit and running. Very, very little stealing. No bunting. They're all swinging all 3 pitches as hard as they can for the fences. And that's basically the way the game goes today, and that's what it is. I mean, that's when I was in there, they changed from probably 10 years before I got there. When I started there, the guys never wore helmets when they went up to the plate. They had a little leather thing in their hat.
Right.
But players in those days knew how to get away out of a pitch being up around their head. They would turn away and go down. I mean, Willie Mays, he got knocked down a lot of times, and he never got hit in the head. They may hit him in the butt or something like that, but not in the head. These guys today, they turn and they look into the pitch. So if the pitch comes at them, they got no way to get out of it. And that's why these guys get hit today. They got all that gear on, so they're pretty confident in that batter's box that I don't have to be leery about that ball, that inside pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion. So,
just recently, somebody was it last night got hit right in the nose, and they're going to have reconstructive surgery. Just get it right in the middle of his face. I mean, I'm a Boston Red Sox fan. Grew up in the Boston area, about northeast of Boston, and Tony Conigliaro. Oh man, the sound that baseball made when it hit him in the head was never want to hear that sound again.
Right. I played with Tony when I got traded to the Angels after my 10 years in Cincinnati. It was 1 year with the Angels, and they traded for Conigliaro, and he wasn't that thing getting hit in the head like that. That really hit a damper on him. Yeah. So, yeah.
One of the extra inning no hitters. Didn't you throw like 187 pitches or something like that in that game?
Yeah, just getting warmed up.
Is that the most you ever threw in a game? 187, was that the most? Or
I talked to Tom. Yeah, I think so. That was the 10-inning no hitter that I won in Chicago.
Right.
And I was 3-2 on a lot of guys. I walked a bunch of guys. I think I walked 10 guys. Some kind of a record there.
Struck out 12.
I hit a couple of guys.
Yep.
And you talk about being luck. I mean, there was a lot of luck involved in that deal, and then I made good pitches when I had to. They didn't really hit the ball hard, or nobody hit the ball hard, but they had guys on the base all the time. And when you have that walking guys, that's one thing that you really don't want to do. I mean, if they want to get a hit, that's okay. But I had. I figured that day. Well, they kept track. I made 187 pitches, and that included 60 pitches warming up. I mean, didn't include. So you had 60 pitches warming up, and then 8 pitches between innings for 10 innings. That's another 80 pitches.
Man.
So that's 140 and 187, 300 some pitches. And I was out there 4 days later. I was out there again pitching again. So. I don't know where these guys get 100 pitches and they look for a light place to land or something. I don't know. I'd certainly have these guys. If I was running the thing, I'd have those starters. I'll tell you why. Because when a starter, I watched Tim Lipscomb here for the Giants when he first came up. They take him out after 5 innings. He'd have 100 pitches, 90-some pitches, and he'd be ahead 2-1. And he pitched. We ended up winning 15 or 16 games that year. He should have won 25, but he'd pitch 5 innings. They take him out. He'd have the lead, be eligible for the win. But when you bring in 4 or 5 relievers, you don't know what you're going to get out of that bullpen. And they'd give up some runs, and the game would get tied, and he would get no decision. That's what Sonny Gray a couple of years ago, or even maybe last year, same thing happened to him. He got taken out early. He was ahead. He should have won 4 or 5 more ball games, but he ended up getting a no decision because he wouldn't let him pitch to the 7th or 8th inning. Then you have one reliever come in and save your game, or maybe 2 at the most, and you got a better chance of the starter getting a decision.
At the end of the 10-inning no hitter, where you threw 187 pitches, and all the others you talked about, was your right arm an inch longer than your left? I mean, is it? What'd your arm feel? Did you ice it down big time, or
yes,
was it so strong? I mean,
Koufax came in and started that icing deal. It seems like when somebody starts something, they all go to it. So
right.
That was when Koufax was icing his elbow. Our trainer, he would have these Dixie cups full of in the refrigerator in the freezer.
Yeah.
And then after you got through, he would take them and undo it and have the paper on, and then be able to do it all over your shoulder and stuff. So I'd ice it, and then they'd hang your arm in a knot, and they would milk your arm, try to get the blood back into your system. But the way we helped ourselves in those days, we ran our tails off. We ran, and I was a free sweater, and I wanted to get that dead blood out of my arm back into so I would be able to pitch, in 4 days after that, so.
You were in my opinion, you were definitely in the golden era of baseball. I mean, who in your mind, and it doesn't just have to be one guy, but a guy or a few guys that unbelievable ball player, complete ball player. Is there anybody that you tag with that?
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, Leadership and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Well, sure. The guys that I pitched against, Stan Musial, he was my idol as a kid growing up, and I was the last guy to pitch against Stan Musial the day he retired in St. Louis at Sportsman's Park.
That's awesome.
So that was, and I got a picture of him and myself in the clubhouse afterwards, and that was a real honor to pitch against my idol, because he was a left-hand hitter, and I sort of liked, he had that funky stance, and I sort of patted myself after that. But Frank Robinson. We had Frank Robinson was a pretty good all-around hitter and player. But the best player that I played against that I saw was Willie Mays.
I figured you were going to say that.
No question about it.
What an
we
athlete.
had guys like Clemente and Hank Aaron. Those guys, they were all good. I mean, they were terrific. And but that Willie Mays is the best I ever saw. For all around. That guy was outstanding.
So of all I think you had maybe at least 3 one-hitters also, didn't you? I mean, you came close on a few more no-hitters in your career.
I had five one-hitters.
5 one-hitters. Wow.
Yeah.
Man.
Then another thing they won't, pitchers today, they won't get into is what I sort of all the things that I did, I mean, I'm not stuck on myself, but that I always thought it was great that I had thrown 30 shutouts. There's no way these pitchers today will even come close to pitching shutouts. That was when a pitcher pitched a shutout, he got as big as kick out of that as throwing a no-hitter. Shut out a team, because a no-hitter, you figure, man, there's no way. I mean, that's really a tough thing.
When you had those kind of games, the 3 no-hitters, in my mind, is 3. Nobody's going to change my mind. 3 no-hitters, 5 one-hitters. Did you feel it in your warm-ups that, this is going to be a special day? Or were there other games that you pitched that you thought, wow, I got it today and it didn't work out? I mean, how does that translate?
Well, you don't really know. For me, I mean, I'm just talking about myself. When I warmed up, a lot of times you're stiff from the time before. You throw a lot of pitches, and I threw a lot of pitches every game. As I was going to say before, Tom Seaver and I talked. He averaged about 140 to 150 pitches per 9 innings, and that's basically, if I threw a good 9-inning game, walked a couple of guys, and maybe I strike out about 5 or 6. If I got into 120 pitches, that was a real good game for me. But most of the time, it was up to between 140 and 150. And that was the same way with Tom Seaver. And so, that was the way we did it in those days. The manager gave you the ball and said, here, go as far as you can go, And then the way they looked at it, they didn't have anything looking about how fast a guy was throwing or what he was doing. You just watched and see how the offense was hitting against you. If they start hitting some line drives and stuff off you, and you're not fooling anybody, then the manager would come out there and, he could ask the catcher how's his stuff or whatever it is. And, they could say, hey, we need to make a change here.
Jim, you're a remarkable guy. I think, have you turned 80 years old?
I'm going to be 80. What am I? 81. Huh? I'm going to be 81 in June. I don't know what it is.
All right. So you're going to be 81 in June.
Yeah.
You've taken care of yourself. You're in great shape. You're sharp as a tack. I mean, did you always take care of yourself? Was conditioning and diet and all that a big deal to you?
No, I wasn't. I didn't take care of myself. I really, my story is when I played, when I pitched, I could regulate my time and stuff. But when I pitched, like a couple of days of stuff, on the road and stuff, that was the thing. You'd go to bars and you'd have a few beers and listen to music and shoot the breeze with guys. And You know how it is in football. Same, you got a group of guys that like that lifestyle, and I was in that lifestyle. But when I ruptured my Achilles tendon in 1970, running against the Dodgers in the early part of the 70, Riverfront was being built at that time, but we were still in Crosley Field. We moved over to Riverfront after the All-Star game in 1970 there. But well, after I ruptured my Achilles tendon, I never won another game. And one of my goals when I started was to win 200 games. And of course, I didn't come close to that. But I ruptured my Achilles tendon, and then a year and a half later, I was out of baseball. I never won another game after that. I couldn't keep things together. My body was falling apart and this and that. And so when I got out of baseball, I came back to Fresno, and I was going to live happily ever after. And, I had 2 girls, and my wife was pregnant at that time with my son in 72. And, I kept on that drinking deal, and I became a real serious problem. In 1985, I went to a rehab place in Wickenburg, Arizona, a place called the Meadows, and I got sober there. And believe it or not, that got me into I ended up in the job market as a drug and alcohol counselor. I ran a place here in Fresno called the Alcoholism and Drug Abuse Council, and we did information assessments and referrals. We were not a treatment place, but we did assessment for people, and we could refer them to places where they could get help. And so I learned a lot about alcoholism. But February the 5th of 1985, one day at a time, I haven't had a drink. So that was the best thing I ever did in my life, really. Yeah. I wouldn't be talking to you today, Dave, if I would have kept drinking. Wouldn't be here, period.
And the voice that we heard, your lovely wife Lynn, I'm sure behind every great man and great story, there's an even greater woman. I bet she has a lot to do with that too, doesn't she?
Well, she's a wonderful, wonderful woman. She and I went together in high school, and 2 years, and then I signed to play baseball. And my dad said, "Hey, you don't need to go play baseball and worry about your girlfriend here." So we broke up. And I went my first year. I played under Johnny Vandermeer, who pitched double no hitters. That's a record that'll never be broken in the major leagues. Pitched back to back no hitters. I mean, you got to pitch 3 of them to beat it. That's a tough goal. But anyway, I met this girl in Topeka, and we ended up getting married in '61, and we had 3 children. And Lynn went and married somebody else and lived in Los Angeles for many, many years. And we never contacted each other or anything. And on our 40th high school reunion, I finally, after my drinking and stuff, blew up my marriage. And I was the whole cause of the whole thing. Yeah. And so I was single for about 10 years, and Lynn was single about 10 years. And we were both married like 20 some years. And then we went to our 40th high school reunion, and we reconnected, and we got married. And so we've been married 20 years.
Good for you guys. Good for you guys.
We hit it off real well.
That's good. That's great. Great. Yeah, it's incredible. The life, the game of life is the toughest game to win, isn't it? It really is.
It is.
It's a crazy.
It is.
Handling failure is a tougher lesson to learn sometimes than handling success. They're both hard to handle, but dealing with failure and dealing with success, I think, is the key to living a good life, isn't it?
I think so. I know that I was one that you have your ups and downs on the on the ball field.
Yeah.
And I know me being as a pitcher, that even if I had a bad day, I was fortunate to, and I learned this early on. I was fortunate to, when I walked out of the clubhouse, I left the game right there in the clubhouse. I never took it home and bothered my family with it and mulked around and sulked. And I said, there's going to be another day, and I'll do the best I can and give it 100%. And but that's life. My lifestyle, my lifetime is a long time. I've had a lot of ups and downs, and but you know what? I've had more ups than I've had downs, and I'm grateful for that.
There you go.
I'm grateful for our health today. We still get around right now. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but so far so good.
Give me your best Pete Rose story, Jim. You guys were about the same age, teammates, and give me your greatest Pete Rose story.
Well, that Rose, he was the guy that it actually, we had a basketball team in the off season. We'd go around and play high school deals, and we had bench, and there was Jerry Arrigo, and we had a couple of ringers. We had a guy that was a little All-American Georgetown, and he was an up and coming Red third baseman in the minor leagues. That's how they introduced him. And we had another kid, I forget what his name was, but anyway, we play all over, and it was a way to stay in shape in the wintertime, and we would split. We would split the pot, or the admission fee. We charge everybody $1, or the school did.
Right.
And we just split it in half, and they give half of it to their athletic department, and then we'd get our half. And it was enough spending money for Christmas presents or whatever it was, but staying in shape.
Sure.
And we'd tell Rose. I'd tell him. I'd say, Pete, I said, we're going to go over here. We go to Newcastle, Indiana.
Right.
And basketball's big in Indiana. See, when I here in Fresno, basketball, you got a high school gyms, they hold 350 people. That's but in Indiana, in Newcastle, they had a school. We went in there, they had 6,000 people in there.
Right.
And so I said, Pete, I says, this game here, we're just running up and down the court here, and we're just trying to do the best we can. If we win, fine. If we don't, but just don't go so hard. Oh, he says, okay, no problem. And they'd have the tip off and make one play up and down the deal there, and I'm telling you, whistle would blow, and then Rose and some other guy, some football coach or something that we'd be playing against, they'd bang heads, he'd elbow somebody, and that's the way the guy played baseball. It was the same way. Even we're having, didn't mean anything, just trying to get by and stay in shape. He wanted to win those games. That's the way he was. That's how competitive he was. He was a good guy. He was a fun guy to be around. But Pete hits to his own drum. He beats to his own drum.
I hear you. What about, you mentioned Johnny Bench. He was a 20-year-old catcher that caught one of your no-hitters, right? 20-year-old Youngblood.
The only no-hitter he caught.
Yeah.
Tom Seaver pitched one for the Reds, and that day, Bench did not start the game. He didn't play in that game. So he would have caught if it would have happened that way.
Yeah.
Bench, But Bench, he's I have a Bench story that I can tell.
Yeah, let's hear it, sir.
You might like it. That when he first came up, he signed from out of Binger, Oklahoma, and he flew into Tampa where we had spring training, and everybody knew that Bench, this kid had some real tools.
Yeah.
So anyway, he came in, and I heard him talking, and he said that this is the first time he was ever on an airplane. And I think he flew to Oklahoma City or something, and then he had to get a flight into Tampa. But he said that he didn't like flying, and he'd only been on a plane one time. He says his plane was bumpy, and he says I got sick, and he says I was leery about the plane going down, and so I says, well, why? He says, I hope I don't have to go on a flight here in spring training. Well, the only time we had to use a plane in spring training was when we went to the East Coast, in Miami, and they'd fly over to Miami. Then we would play Pompano Beach and West Palm Beach and play. Baltimore was in Miami. Play a couple of games there in Miami. So he went over there, and I said, well, go check we're going to go over there and go check the list to see who's on the list. Well, his name was on the list. So he came running back to me, and he said, wow, he says, I'm scared to death of going on this flight. I says, hey, don't worry about it, John. I says, you want to sit next to me I said, oh, no problem. And he says, yeah, I'd really appreciate that. He was really sincere,
Yeah.
So anyway, we go out after the game. We go out to the airport. In those days, we were flying those props. We weren't going by the jets yet. It was four motor props. It was a United DC 6B charters. That's what we did. And so we go over there, and he sits down next to me, and he's feeling the thing, and he's looking out the window. And I says, okay, they're going to crank these motors up. And I says, you're going to see a big puff of smoke come out of each end. It doesn't mean anything. I said, that's just oil. They have to get them running and this and that. So anyway, they started it up, started those engines going, and he's looking out there at the smoke and this and that. So anyway, we start taxiing out to take off. And I said, now he's going to stop over here before we take off, and he's going to synchronize these engines together. And he says, don't worry about one thing. So in those days, we knew the crew. We knew the guy that flew us around was a guy named Al. And they called him Captain Al. And we knew the stewardesses, of course, being politically correct. I don't know what you call them today, but that's what it was in those days.
Yeah, flight attendants, yeah.
There you go, flight attendants. That's right. Thanks. But anyway, he comes and he says, so they start warming the thing up, and he's grabbing the armrest, and the plane's shaking a little bit. And I said, okay, now we're getting ready. And so he comes and he turns the motors down a little bit, and he says, hey, this is Captain Al, guys. How you doing today? He says, I was out, saw the first 5 innings there down Lopez Field. See, the crew used to come out and watch 5 innings, and they go get the plane ready, see?
Yeah.
He says, congratulations, Frank Robinson. He says, you hit that home run today and won. He said, you guys won the game, so we're going to have a little flight over to Miami, and as soon as we get up in the air, he says, I'll come on and I'll tell you a little bit about our flight over there. So you guys sit back, and we get ready to go here. So anyway, he tees out. He starts going down the runway and bench, and he's holding on to the thing. And I says, it's okay. I said, it's going pretty soon. He gets off the ground, and we start to go up. He's probably up about 6,000, 5,000 feet, still going up a little bit, and the little puffy clouds and start, bouncing around a little bit. He says, hey, guys, this is Captain Al coming out. Going to give you a little information on our flight here. And he says, it'll take about an hour to get over here to Miami. He says, we're going to have a nice flight. And he goes, oh, my God, no, click. And the PA system turns off, see? And Vince went back in his seat like, whoo. And to be honest with you, I was a little shook up, too. I never heard it go on like that. Right. And the plane was quiet. They were looking around. They were looking. Everything was sounding okay. So then I guess it was a long minute, he came back on. Hey, guys, he said, this is Captain Al. He says, I guess you guys want to know. He says, what happened up here? He said, the stewardess came up and tripped on the little line here on the thing and this and that, and spilled coffee and cream all over the front of my pants. He says, you ought to see the front of my pants. And Vince jumped up out of the seat. And he says, you ought to see the back of mine.
That's great. Oh, yeah. That's great. That is classic. Oh, man, I'm telling you. So one last question. I appreciate you spending all the time that you spent with us here. Physically, how is your arm? I mean, at the age of 80, does your arm bother you at all? Or
Absolutely.
Does it? Yeah.
I can't. The rotator's cuff is gone. And I don't, they want to put another shoulder in there, but I'm not having surgery done. I can sleep at night a little bit, but I can't throw a baseball. I have my knees. I've had 2 knee replacements, and so it took the toll. You pay for it later on in life, but it's like I say, I still get along. But if you want me to come out and play catch with your little kid or something like that, forget it. I have to go about 3 feet and do underhand tosses or something. That's about it.
Knowing what the old days. Huh? Knowing what you know now, would you do it again though?
Absolutely.
Yep.
I without any doubt. I ever since I was a kid growing up, I wanted to play in the major leagues.
Yep.
And we didn't really know much about it in California because we didn't. You didn't have all the coverage today like ESPN and all that stuff. We knew very little. Had Dizzy Dean and Buddy Blattner on the weekend doing a game out of Philadelphia or somewhere and watch the major league ball players. And you had the World Series where we go to school and they let you watch the World Series here in Fresno. And at that time, they had little TVs and stuff or radios or, whatever it was. But that was a big thing. And that's all I want to do. I played Little League baseball and Babe Ruth, American Legion, high school ball and junior college ball. And I signed, and I was fortunate to make it to the major leagues and had a decent career.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah.
Now, living out in California, and this, I promise, is the final question. Are you still a Reds fan? Do you follow the Reds? And if so, what do you think?
Well, absolutely. I spent almost my whole career with the Reds.
Yep.
And I've said this many, many times before that before I never heard one thing from the Reds after I got out of baseball over all the years. And when they put me in the Hall of Fame, the Reds Hall of Fame, 1973, I think it was, they just mailed my plaque to me. There was no ceremony or nothing. And, I have my plaque and it's on the wall here in our house. But not until Bob Castellini bought the ball club. And then all of a sudden they have contacted Lynn and myself. We have been to spring training many, many years.
Right.
They invited us for a week. I've been involved in the Reds fantasy camp for 30 years, which was before Castellini got to the ball club.
Sure.
But they invite us back all the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful family for what they do there in Cincinnati and the community. And we just pull every year for the Reds that they can make it to the playoffs and win a World Series because that family deserves one if there ever was one. And we're very grateful that we know that Castellini family. They're just wonderful. And the ball players, I've met a few of the ball players along the line. Dusty Baker and all those the guys there, and Brian Price, and they treat us wonderful. And so when we watch, we have the direct TV thing here every day. We watch the Reds games. In fact, they might be on right now. I don't know. I think they are, but they come on at 9:30 out here. But we're pulling for them, and hopefully they can get there. I think personally that they're going to be able to compete all year. I think their starting pitching is. I think Castillo is probably needs to make some few adjustments. I sit there and look at him, and I just think, with a guy that throws 98 miles an hour and he wants to get everybody out with a changeup, I don't understand that thinking. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
But that's the way they do it. And I would certainly, with a 98 mile an hour fastball, and I could throw it pretty much to where I wanted to, and stay out of the upper areas and down and in where they like to pull the ball and hit for home runs. You could just set people up, and then you just periodically throw that change up. And I think he needs that slider. He never throws the slider, but he started throwing one, and I think that's going to really help him. That's my opinion. But Sonny Gray's a real competitor, and the little left-hander pitched last night. He knows how to pitch. And he reminds me of Tom Browning, same type of deal. And, but I think that they're going to compete. The hitting, I think they're going to hit a little bit better than what they're showing. They got a couple guys leading off the top two hitters there. The right fielder Castellanos and Winker. Man, they're tearing it up. And Suarez, he's just looks like he's got to swing back a little bit, but hopefully he can snap out of it. They all have everybody, pitchers, everybody, hitters. They all have ups and downs. They go through periods of being slumps, and that's one thing about it. The guys that are successful know how to battle their way out of the slump and get back to where they are, and do it year in and year out. It's a real ball player, real major leaguer.
Jim, you're a sheer delight. It was a joy catching up with you, and you're right. The Reds are playing right now. They're playing the San Francisco Giants on a business special. So they're they're enjoying themselves at the park, and go ahead and catch that game and root them on to victory, sir. Appreciate your time immensely.
Thank you, Dave. My pleasure. It really is. Thank you.